Welcome back to the next chapter of our story. The last episode left us on a breathtaking cliffhanger. A gunshot ringing out in the damp wine cellar, a body hitting the floor, and Diep's heart-wrenching scream. Who took the bullet? Mr. Juan James? Or has a bloody tragedy truly struck? But ladies and gentlemen, life sometimes writes scripts that even the players themselves couldn't imagine. Today's episode features the most spectacular plot twist of the entire series. A shocking truth is revealed behind the gunsmoke. A powerful woman steps out of the shadows. And an ending. Happy, yet leaving some personal feelings unresolved. What is the truth behind that gunshot? And why does Diep refuse to hold the wedding right now, even after accepting the proposal? Don't skip ahead. Put on your headphones and join us in this emotional story right now. And if you support James and Diep's love, hit that like button and subscribe to send them your blessings. Bang! The gunshot rang out deafening in the cramped space of the wine cellar. James squeezed his eyes shut, tensing his body, waiting for the flesh-tearing pain. Diep screamed, covering her face, trembling as she huddled in the corner. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds passed. No pain came. No smell of metallic blood. Only the acrid scent of gunpowder and a terrifying silence. James slowly opened his eyes. In front of him, Mr. Juan was still standing back against the wall, gasping for air, eyes wide with shock. John the scarred assassin still held his shooting stance, but the twisted smile on his lips had changed. It wasn't the bloodthirsty grin of a killer anymore, but the smile of an actor who had just delivered an excellent performance. From the dark barrel of his gun, a small red flag popped out, drooping down with the word "Bang!" James was stunned. Mr. Juan was frozen. Suddenly, the cellar flooded with bright light. Not the flickering yellow bulbs, but a high-powered LED system hidden in the ceiling. Clapping echoed from behind John. Cut, great acting. The show is over. A powerful, sophisticated female voice rang out. John immediately lowered the gun, bowed respectfully, and stepped aside to clear the path. From the shadows of the cellar stairs, where they thought the fire had trapped them, a middle-aged woman stepped out. She wore an elegant white suit, exuding a high-class aura, her face showing signs of time, but still radiating a sharp beauty. Mr. Juan squinted. Then his lips trembled, uttering a name he had buried deep in his memory for 20 years. "Lon, you're still alive." James was equally shocked. "Mom!" That's right. That woman was Mrs. Lon James's biological mother, the wife Mr. Juan said had died of illness, the woman James only knew through old photos. She wasn't dead. She had only left because she couldn't stand her husband's ambition, and now she had returned. Mrs. Lon walked forward, her gaze sweeping over James and Diep with pity, then stopping at Mr. Juan, who had a broken leg, his clothes scorched and smeared with soot. "I'm not dead, Juan," she said, her voice calm but full of authority. "I just stood from afar to watch how you raised our son, but all I saw was imposition and cruelty. So, all of this?" Mr. Juan looked at John, at the toy gun, then up at the ceiling. The fire John. It was all arranged by you? Correct, Mrs. Lon admitted. The fire upstairs was a fake flame system used on movie sets combined with non-toxic smoke. John here has been my trusted bodyguard for the last 10 years abroad. I needed a test Hoan. She stepped closer to her ex-husband, looking him straight in the eye. I heard you changed. I heard you wanted to make amends. But words are cheap. I needed to know if when facing the line between life and death, you would dare sacrifice your precious old life to protect James and the woman he loves. Or would you selfishly run away like you did 20 years ago? Mr. Hoan bowed his head. He understood. The terrifying drama tonight, from the burnt wedding dress, the threatening texts to the house fire, it was all a ruthless test his wife had designed for him. And what is the result? Mr. Hoan asked, his voice hoarse. Mrs. Lon sighed, her eyes softening. She looked down at his broken leg, the real injury he took to save Diep. You used your body to block the falling timber for Diep. You accepted staying behind to face the gun so James could escape. He has passed my test. James finally snapped out of his daze. Rage flared within him. He lunged forward, grabbing his mother's hands. Mom, why would you do this? Do you know Dad almost died? Do you know how terrified Diep was? This isn't a game. Mrs. Lon looked at her son, reaching up to caress his gaunt face, her eyes welling with tears. I'm sorry, son. I know I was cruel. But if I didn't do this, how could I be certain your father wouldn't revert to his old ways? How could I entrust you to him? When I have to return to the States for treatment, I needed an absolute guarantee, James. A guarantee forged in blood and fire. James froze. Mom is sick. But before he could ask more, Diep spoke up. She stepped toward Mr. Hoan, who was sitting slumped on the floor. She looked at him, then at Mrs. Lon. So, about my father, the fire all those years ago, was that fake too? Mrs. Lon shook her head, her expression darkening. No, Diep. That was real. This John is an actor, but the John from the past was real. And your family's pain is real. This test was a performance, but it was built upon your uncle's very real mistakes from the past. Diep turned back to Mr. Hoan. He remained seated, his broken leg throbbing in pain, but he didn't utter a sound. He looked up at her, his eyes filled with remorse and pleading. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, Diep, Mr. Hoan said sincerely. Even though the gun was fake, my regret is real. I was ready to die tonight to repay my debt to you. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. Diep fell silent. She recalled the moment Mr. Hoan lunged to push her away from the falling timber. She remembered him telling James to leave him behind. A man willing to sacrifice his life for another, perhaps the man in him, had finally conquered the monster. She took a deep breath and wiped her tears. I can't forget what happened to my parents, but I acknowledge what you did for me and James tonight. Consider the debt of life partially repaid. Diep's words felt like a pardon. Mr. Hoan exhaled in relief, a tear rolling down his cheek. 1 month later, the storm had truly passed. The Huang villa was renovated. After getting a cast for his leg, Mr. Huan handed over full control of the corporation to Hung and James, stepping back to enjoy his retirement and trying to mend his friendship with his ex-wife, Mrs. Lan, who decided to stay in Vietnam a while longer. On a starry night, James took Diep to the rooftop of the city's tallest building where he had bought back their new apartment. The night wind fluttered Diep's white dress. Beneath their feet, the city lit up like a dazzling galaxy. James took Diep's hand, turning her to face him. He looked deep into those dark eyes that had weathered the stormiest days of his life with him. Diep. James began, his voice trembling with nerves. We've walked through poverty, forbidden love, and even death. I once thought I'd lost everything, but it turns out losing everything was how I found my most precious treasure, you. He dropped to one knee, pulling a small box from his pocket. Inside wasn't a lavish billion-dong diamond ring. It was a simple silver ring set with a small green stone, the color of hope, the color of the jade bracelet his mother left behind. Will you be my wife? I can't promise a royal life without worries, but I promise that every day when you open your eyes, the first person to love you will be me, and the last person to protect you will be me. Diep was moved, covering her mouth to stifle a happy sob. Memories rushed back the first meeting at the flower shop, the bowls of instant noodles split in two in the rental room, and that terrifying night in the fake sea of fire. She loved him more than herself. She nodded, tears streaming down. I accept. I agree to be your wife. James burst with joy, sliding the ring onto her finger, then standing up to pull her into a tight hug, spinning her around under the night sky. But just as James was about to plant a passionate kiss on her lips to mark the moment, Diep gently placed a finger on his lips, stopping him. She looked at him, her eyes still overflowing with love, but clouded with a hint of hesitation. James, she whispered, I agree to marry you, but can we postpone the wedding for a while? James was surprised, the smile on his lips freezing slightly. Why, honey? Our parents have agreed. Everything is fine now, isn't it? Diep let go of his hand, walking to the railing, gazing out at the distant horizon. Everything is fine for you, for your family, but for me, the wounds in my heart still need time to form a scar. She turned back to look at James. I just found out the truth about my parents' death. Even though I've accepted Uncle Juan's change to naturally call him Dad, to live in a family that indirectly caused the tragedy of my own, I need time to mentally prepare. I don't want to step into this marriage with a heart still full of lingering doubts. James looked at her, his initial disappointment quickly replaced by understanding and respect. He stepped forward, wrapping his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. I understand. I apologize for rushing things. I'll wait. 1 year, 2 years, however long it takes. As long as the final destination is you, I can wait. Diep smiled, leaning her head against his chest. Thank you for understanding me. Besides, she hesitated for a moment, then turned to look at him with a mischievous glint in her eye. I want to use this time to learn. I don't want to be a wife who just relies on her husband. I want to expand the flower shop. I want to study business, so I can be worthy of standing next to you, a future CEO. James laughed, kissing her forehead lightly. Deal, future boss lady. We will grow up together. Under the starry sky, the two stood together, not needing a lavish wedding right this second to prove their love. Because they knew the biggest trial had passed, and the waiting time ahead wasn't a distance to cross, but a foundation to build a happiness that would last forever. And so, our story temporarily pauses here. A happy ending, but a realistic one. Love isn't a fairy tale where all hatred vanishes overnight. Forgiveness takes time, and trust must be rebuilt from the ashes. Mr. Huan learned the greatest lesson of his life about fatherhood. Mrs. Lan could finally rest easy in trusting her son to a repentant father. And James and Diep proved that as long as they hold hands tightly, no fire, real or fake, can burn down true love. But do you really think Mrs. Lan returned to Vietnam just to test Mr. Huan? Or does the sudden return of this powerful woman hide another business secret related to the Huang Group? And will Diep truly be able to forget the hatred, or has she simply shelved it for now? Life goes on, and undercurrents are always waiting. But for today, let's just let them be happy in this moment. 6 months later. 6 months had passed since James refused to return to the Huang Group immediately. He told his father he needed a practical internship, not at Harvard, but right in Diep's homeland, in a peaceful Midland region, far from the city smog. There was a small farm named Anyin Peaceful Serenity. It was the brainchild of James and Diep. Every morning before the fog had even lifted, people would see a tall young man with handsome Eurasian features driving an old battered pickup truck along the red dirt roads. That was James. He no longer held pens to sign billion-dollar contracts. Now he held a notebook, going around buying baskets of oranges and sacks of corn from local farmers. Auntie Ba, the oranges are fetching a great price today. Save them all for me, okay? James spoke Vietnamese more fluently every day, his sunny smile making everyone instantly fond of him. None of the locals knew he was a billionaire heir. They only knew him as Uncle James, the man who brought economic knowledge to teach them standard farming techniques, then stepped in to cover distribution, helping them escape poverty. Diep became the capable boss lady. She managed the books and coordinated online orders. The flower shop of the past had expanded into a clean agricultural brand supplying major restaurants in the city. Life was hard, sweat soaking their shirts every summer afternoon. But in the small wooden house, nestled among the tea hills, laughter never ceased, and most especially their family had a new member, baby Nhi. Nai was the daughter of a distant cousin of Diep, who had faced difficult circumstances. Her parents died early in a flash flood accident last year. James and Diep took her in, raising her as their own. The arrival of the bubbly, innocent 5-year-old girl bonded James and Diep tighter than ever, turning them into a real family, even without a wedding ceremony. "I've noticed you getting thinner lately," James said, gently rubbing Diep's shoulder, as she was busy finalizing orders late at night. "Lots of orders are good, but health is more important. How about we take a day off tomorrow?" Diep looked up, eyes brightening. "Take off. Go where we'll escape." James winked mysteriously. "I found this amazing spot deep in the Bon Zoi Valley. There's a stream, a waterfall, and it's secluded. We'll take Ly camping barbecue some meat and stargaze, just the three of us. Hearing about the trip, Ly, who was drawing in the corner, cheered. Camping, camping. I want to catch fish with Daddy James. Seeing the eager look in the eyes of the two most important people in his life, Diep nodded. She also craved the feeling of letting go, of lying in James's arms amidst nature, without worrying about ledgers. The next morning, James's pickup truck loaded with tents. Food and survival gear rolled toward the deep forest. The scenery of Bonzoy Valley was as beautiful as an ink wash painting. The crystal clear stream trickled over large rocks, surrounded by the shade of ancient trees. No phone signal, no car horns, just the sound of birds singing and the wind in the trees. James chose a flat spot by the stream to set up camp. He deftly drove stakes and tightened rope skills he had learned during his wandering days. Diep and little Ly busied themselves preparing the food. By noon, the smell of grilled meat wafted through the corner of the forest. James placed a perfectly cooked piece of meat in Diep's bowl, then attentively wiped Ly's mouth. "Daddy James, when I grow up, can I marry a husband like you?" Ly asked innocently. James laughed, rubbing her head. "No way Daddy belongs to Mommy Diep. You have to find someone even cooler than Daddy." Diep looked at the father and daughter, her heart overflowing with peace. She rested her head on James's shoulder, whispering, "Thank you for giving up your royal life to come here and endure hardships with me." James kissed her hair lightly. "I'm not enduring hardship. I'm enjoying myself. At the villa, I had money, but no freedom. Here I have you. I have Ly. I have this sky. I'm the one who profited the most. Happiness seemed complete, but nature always harbors terrifying unpredictability. As night fell, the sky, once full of stars, was suddenly obscured by pitch-black clouds rolling in from nowhere. The wind began to howl through the mountain passes, carrying a bone-chilling cold. "Looks like a big storm is coming." James frowned, looking up at the sky. "Diep, take Ly inside the tent first. I'll reinforce the tent stakes and cover the firewood." No sooner had he spoken than a deafening boom of thunder shook the ground. Rain began to pour like a waterfall. It wasn't just a normal shower. It was a jungle downpour. The water hammered down, turning the lush green grass into a muddy swamp in seconds. "James, come inside, it's pouring!" Diep screamed from inside the tent. Just a second. James was struggling to throw a tarp over the small portable generator. Suddenly, a roaring sound came from upstream. It wasn't thunder. It sounded like the growl of a beast charging toward them. His jungle survival instinct screamed danger. James spun around, shining his flashlight toward the stream. Flash flood, murky water, churning with rocks and broken trees, was barreling down at terrifying speed. The water level was rising faster than anyone could imagine. Diep, grab, Ly, run, get to high ground. James screamed, dropping everything and bolting toward the tent. Diep panic-lifted baby Ly. But the slippery ground sent her stumbling face first into the mud. The floodwaters had already reached the edge of the tent, sweeping away their supplies outside. James rushed over, hauling Diep up with one arm and scooping up Ly with the other. "Don't look back, run." They scrambled up the slope behind them. The rain whipped their faces, stinging like needles, and the mud sliding under their feet made every step feel like they were wearing lead weights. Just as they clambered onto a rock ledge, about 3 meters above the stream level, crash! A massive log, carried by the flood, slammed into the rock they were standing on. The violent impact shook the ledge, causing it to crack open. Ah! Baby Knee slipped from Diep's grasp, falling toward the churning edge of the water. Ly! Diep shrieked in despair, about to dive after her, but a shadow was faster than her. James, without a second of hesitation, he threw himself into the ferocious current. He grabbed Knee's sleeve just inches before she was sucked under a rock formation. "Hold on to Daddy tight!" James roared, his other hand gripping a thick, ancient tree root jutting out from the bank. The force of the water was too strong, and the combined weight of 2 people caused the root to start snapping, strand by strand. Snap, snap. Diep on the bank, leaned out as far as she could, extending a long branch down to James. James, grab it. Hold on. James gritted his teeth, veins bulging on his neck. He summoned every ounce of strength he had to hoist Ly up. Diep, pull her up now. Diep grabbed Knee's hand, dragging the little girl to safety. Mother and daughter hugged each other, sobbing. But when Diep turned back to save James, the root he was holding couldn't take it anymore. Snap. The root severed completely. James, his massive frame was swallowed by the murky water in an instant. He only managed one last look at Diep, his eyes filled with steely resolve. "I'm okay. Protect our child." And then he vanished into the night and the roar of the raging torrent. "No!" Diep screamed, her voice drowned out by the rain. She tried to jump in after him, but Ly was clinging to her leg in terror. She couldn't die. She had to take care of Ly, and she had to save James. The flood passed as quickly as it came, leaving behind a devastated battlefield. The rain began to let up. Diep settled Ly into a safe rock alcove, then grabbed her flashlight, running frantically along the stream bank. Thorns tore at her legs, drawing blood, but she felt no pain. The pain in her heart was 1,000 times greater. "James, where are you? Answer me." She shined the light into every bush, every crevice. Nothing. Just mud and a terrifying silence. 1 hour, 2 hours passed. Hope was fading. Diep collapsed by the stream, her tears mixing with the rain. "You promised you wouldn't leave me. You survived bullets and fire. Are you really going to lose to some rain?" Suddenly, her flashlight beam swept across a dense bush downstream. Something reflected the light. It was the watch James wore on his wrist. Diep lunged forward, tearing the bushes apart. James lay there, half submerged in the water, unconscious. His head was bleeding from the impact, and one leg was pinned under a massive boulder. "James, James." Diep slapped his cheeks hard, checking for breath. It was faint, but he was still breathing. "Thank God!" Diep sobbed. She tried to push the boulder, crushing his leg, but it was too heavy. What could she do? She was just a petite woman with soft hands. There wasn't a soul around. In that moment of despair, images of James's sacrifices flashed before her eyes. He had given up his fortune, his pride, and had even almost died for her. She couldn't be weak now. Diep looked around, and found a large broken branch to use as a lever. She wedged a smaller rock underneath as a fulcrum and jammed the branch under the massive boulder. 1, 2, 3. Heave. Deep gritted her teeth, channeling every ounce of strength of a wife fighting for her husband's life. The rock budged. Just a little more. The boulder rolled away. Deep hurriedly pulled James onto the dry grass. She tore her own shirt to bandage his head wound, then huddled close, warming him with her own body heat. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the leaves, illuminating James's pale face. He stirred slightly, feeling like his entire body had been beaten. He opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was Diep sleeping beside him, her hand still gripping his tightly. Her clothes were muddy and torn. Not far away, baby Nee was curled up in the only dry blanket left. "Diep!" James whispered, Deep startled awake. Seeing James open his eyes, she burst into tears and hugged him tight. "You're awake, I thought I lost you." James smiled weakly, reaching up to wipe her tears. "I'm tough as a weed. My will to live is fierce. I won't die that easily. Thank you for saving me." He looked down at his leg, carefully bandaged with strips of Deep's shirt. He realized the fragile girl from the past had become extraordinarily strong. Love and adversity had forged her into a brave woman, worthy of being his rock when he fell. "Let's go home," Diep said. "I'm scared of this place now." "Wait." James tried to sit up. "Before we go, I want to show you both something. This is the reason I brought you here." James leaned on Diep's shoulder, limping toward a nearby high cliff that hadn't been touched by the flood. Looking down from above, the entire valley stretched out in breathtaking green, and right in the middle of that valley was a natural heart-shaped clearing surrounded by a forest of vibrant yellow wild sunflowers. "Do you see that clearing?" James pointed. That is the land I secretly bought 3 months ago with the profits from selling our produce." James smiled. "I plan to take you and Nye down there today to camp right in the middle of that heart. And I was going to tell you, I will build a house there. A real home for us. Not a rental. Not my parents' house." James turned to look at Diep, his eyes sincere. "Yesterday, nature tested us. But it also proved one thing. No matter the storm, the flood, or the landslide, as long as you hold my hand, I will never let go." Diep was too moved to speak. She looked down at the heart-shaped land, then at her battered but magnificent husband. "I agree." Diep smiled through her tears. "Let's build a house there, our home." The three of them, James, Diep, and baby Nye, hugged each other amidst the majestic mountains. The storm last night had washed away all fear, leaving behind a foundation for their love that was stronger than ever. But the story doesn't end there. As they were packing up to return, James stumbled upon something strange. At the rock crevice where Diep had pulled him up, the landslide had exposed a small cave that had been buried for a long time. And inside that cave, glinting in the sunlight, was an old metal box engraved with an emblem. The Hoang Group emblem. James was stunned. Why would his father's company logo appear in this wild, remote jungle on a box buried for decades? Curious, he opened the box. Inside were stacks of yellow documents and an old diary. The first line in the diary sent a chill down James's spine. Banzoi Project, 1998. Codename Plan B. If you are reading this, it means I am dead, or I regret what I have done. The signature below was not Mr. Hoan's. It was John. Why did John bury a secret here? And what is Plan B? Is it connected to the fact that James accidentally found this land? Or has everything been orchestrated by an invisible hand? Another secret from the past has been pried open just when they thought they had found peace. Will this diary bring luck? Or will it sow the seeds of a new, more terrible storm? Let's wait for the answer in the next episode. Thank you for holding your breath and following the life and death journey of James's family. Do you think finding that box was a coincidence? Leave your prediction in the comments below. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to be the first to discover the secret inside that box. Goodbye, and see you again